Good morning, you're very welcome along to Ireland Dame. It is Wednesday, the 21st of December, just 4 more sleeps. There is such excitement in our house.
Is it? Is it just getting really...
It's literally 5 more sleeps, 4 more... Oh,
they're counting down. Are they over the advent calendar been eaten?
Oh, we've had to get them something else.
You had to get them something else?
Yeah.
Emma finished school today?
Yes, she is.
So many kids finishing all over the place. We know that everyone's in great form. We've got the perfect show lined up to get you over that midweek hump. From science to styles and music to trials. Here's what's coming up.
Yeah, this is a really good, inspirational story coming up for you. From sleeping rough to getting master's degrees, we're going to hear from the inspirational Croatian twins who went from being homeless to being presented with a Special Achievement Award. You could talk to these guys for an hour and it wouldn't be enough. They are just so inspirational.
Unbelievable stories. Also coming up a little bit later on, investigative journalist Nicola Tallant from, if you're listening to the Crime World podcast, which is so good, she's going to be chatting to us about loads of things, and we'll be getting an update on the Jerry Hutch murder trial as well.
Plus, Mayo-based cellist, as I said celloist earlier, than a cellist. Patrick Dexter shares his love of the west of Ireland and performs live for us at the end of the show.
Now, everyone, get in the mood for a bit of E17. Baby, if you got to go away. Derico. There he is. Look at him.
It's another day. Don't you stay another day.
Stay
I remember
now,
that song.
stay
Oh God.
now.
I think it was about like 17.
E17.
Guys, how are you?
Mwah, beautiful outfit today, Derek.
Yeah, I kind of feel like Frosty the Snowman, guys. It's a bit of a blustery one out there this morning. In fact, a bit of a splash and dash kind of day because we have some heavy thundery showers on the way. That ongoing risk of hail out there this Wednesday as well. But guess where we're at? Because we're here in the Navan Road. We're off to pick up a cheque for a big amount of money, and we're going to be presenting it to a local nursing home later on this morning. So a real feel-good, positive story on the way this Wednesday. Frosty the Snowman.
We're sticking with E17. You looks like you're the 5th member of E17.
Bring it back, bring it back. Love
Fabulous.
it, Derek. Thanks very much. He looks warm at least for a change, which is nice. It is time now to get over to the Virgin Media News Hub. Here is Cleona Russell.
Thanks, Tommy. Good morning. The Cabinet is meeting today to sign off on a revised set of measures for the Climate Action Plan. The document will provide details of how carbon budgets and emissions targets by sectors will be achieved. Under consideration are minimum parking charges in all urban areas, a reduction in public sector parking where good public transport exists, and a decrease in kilometres travelled by private cars. An update on the progress of the plan published in the summer showed that more than a quarter of the measures outlined last year had not been met on deadline. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is preparing to visit Washington today. The trip will coincide with the Biden administration's intent to send a new defence assistance package to the country as it fights off Russia's invasion. It's understood the package will include US Patriot missile systems. There are some security concerns around the visit. It would mark Zelensky's first trip outside Ukraine since the Russian invasion began in February. There's been a modest rise in consumer confidence ahead of Christmas, according to the credit union Consumer Sentiment Index. But it found that consumers are still cautious, with cost of living seen as a key negative for next year. And while December marked the most positive assessment of the broad economic outlook since June, the overwhelming view was that the economy will weaken in the next 12 months. Cork soldier Shane Carney will be medically evacuated from Beirut Airport to Casement Aerodrome in Baldonnel this afternoon. The 22-year-old from County Cork suffered a head injury and is in a critical condition. He'll be taken by ambulance to Beaumont Hospital to continue receiving treatment. He remains stable at present. 2 other members of the Irish Defence Forces are in hospital, while 23-year-old Private Sean Rooney was sadly killed. A brand new Virgin Media News documentary, The Fall of Bomber Kavanagh, airs tonight at 9 p.m. on Virgin Media 1. It details the Garda raid back in 2017 that eventually led to the fall of the second in command of the Kinahan cartel.
I've been working on Garda Síochána and involved in investigations targeting organised crime for 33 years now. Thomas Bomber Kavanagh is probably one of the most significant convictions I have seen in the course of my career.
In January 2017, at the height of the Hutch-Kinahan feud, Gardaí raided an industrial premises in Dublin. They seized a huge arsenal of weapons, but it was a number of documents related to a UK-based shipping and logistics firm that led them to a bigger prize. The UK's National Crime Agency intercepted a huge shipment of illegal drugs in Dover as a result. The investigation would eventually topple one of the UK's biggest drug smuggling operations and lead authorities to the door of the Kinahan cartel's second-in-command, Thomas Bomber Kavanagh.
I don't think it's by pure chance that, in the last number of years, the level of organised crime murders has actually dropped dramatically. So I think that's the level of impact.
Tonight's documentary also details how £500,000 of designer goods was found during raids at Bomber Kavanagh's house, aside from huge amounts of cash also unearthed. Brand new, The Fall of Bomber Kavanagh airs at 9 o'clock tonight on Virgin Media 1. Rob O'Hanrahan, Virgin Media News.
Today marks the shortest day of the year. The winter solstice will see crowds return to Newgrange in County Meath to view the sunrise. Hundreds of people will gather to try to catch a glimpse of the first light shining into the tomb's central chamber. The Samaritans is also marking the longest night of the year by reminding people struggling to cope that its helpline is open. Volunteers answered almost 35,000 calls to its 24-hour free phone last December, including 1,120 on Christmas Day.
Call the Quote Devil, unless, of course, you've got money to burn.
And a very good morning to you at home, or if you're indeed streaming online on the player. We're coming to you live here from the Navan Road in Dublin this morning. In fact, we're off to pick up a charity cheque to give to a local nursing home. So a real feel-good positive story coming your way over the next wee while. Anyway, let's take an opening look at weather together now with Ronan McIntyre on cameras as we hit the winter solstice, making it the shortest day, longest night of the year. And at the moment, in terms of weather, pulling back the curtains on your Wednesday morning, we have two bands of linear showers now stretching across parts of Ulster, Galway, Mayo into Roscommon there through Strokestown, not escaping either in those fresh and locally gusty southwesterly winds. Now, as we pick up across the day, in fact, it is that mixture of sunshine and showers. It could be heavy at times where they do fall, with an ongoing risk of hail and, in fact, a little bit of spot flooding out there as we hit the hump of the week. Those winds easing back, though, as we edge our way towards the back end of the day. And temps quite similar to yesterday at 7 to 10 degrees. Finally then tonight, still a couple of hit and miss scattered showers trailing around, but it will dry out elsewhere. It's a little bit of good news on the cards. Now, quite a cold night in store, -1 to +4 degrees, coldest through the North Midlands with some patchy mist and a little taster of fog as well to tuck its way into your Thursday morning. So that's how we're shaping up here in Dublin. 7 at the moment. We'll catch you back live at 7:35.
For first-time drivers, young drivers, returning drivers, if you've had an open claim or have had too many penalty points.
The Quote Devil's always got one hell of a quote.
It's time now to take a look at this morning's papers. We'll start with the Irish Times. Its headline: Climate Plan aims to cut car trip distances by a fifth. Government reforms will seek to curb car parking where public transport options exist and reduce the distance driven by motorists by a fifth as part of an attempt to reduce emissions.
Angry Phil Hogan's blistering attack on populist Varadkar is the top story on the Irish Independent. Former EU Commissioner Phil Hogan has launched a stinging attack on Taoiseach Leo Varadkar, who he accused of abandoning his principles after he was elected Fine Gael leader.
The Examiner leads with Harris pledges resources to tackle feud. Gardaí, armed with submachine guns and automatic pistols, were positioned at checkpoints in Rathkeal, County Limerick yesterday, assisting unarmed colleagues after abhorrent and unacceptable violence flared in the town in recent days.
Varadkar bans mobile phones from Cabinet is the top story on the Daily Mail. Leo Varadkar is banning his ministers from bringing mobile phones into Cabinet meetings amid concerns about leaks and electronic spying.
The Herald goes with Dowdall, I was full of hit. Former Sinn Féin councillor Jonathan Dowdall has denied he suggested getting the IRA to carry out hits during sinister banter he had in a bugged conversation with murder-accused Jerry the Monk Hutch.
The Sun leads with Cameron, our beautiful boy, forever 18. Murdered Cameron Riley was remembered as a beautiful child as his killer was sentenced to life in jail.
And the Mirror goes with, ooh, ah, I'll fight McGrath. Conor McGregor challenged PJ Gallagher and Paul McGrath to a 2-on-1 boxing match following a social media spat. Have you been following that
Put
since
the phone
Sunday?
down, Connor.
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
Telling PJ Gallagher you shouldn't be talking about his mental health and then
Fair
Paul
play
McGrath.
to Paul McGrath actually on it. But amazing.
PJ.
Just shows what a national treasure he is. Anyway.
So weird what he's up to there. Anyway, up next we're going to be chatting to the Croatian twins who went from sleeping rough in the Phoenix Park in Dublin to graduating college with a master's degree.
Yeah, it's amazing. We're going to hear their inspirational story about the power of education after this short break.
Welcome back. Now our next guests have an inspirational story. They went from sleeping rough in the Phoenix Park to receiving master's degrees.
Please welcome Jay and Alan. Bob and Act to tell us all about their inspirational story. Good morning to you both. I heard you on the radio last week and it's an incredible story. Jay, you're from Croatia, moved over to Ireland obviously now, but you experienced homelessness back in Croatia as well, is that right? I mean, tell us about the little island that you both came from.
Yeah, so we grew up on this island, and Alan actually came first. Would you like to share the story, rather?
Of course, yeah. So we were born on this island in Croatia, as Jay mentioned, and although it's very popular, you know, a lot of tourists go there. When the tourist season ends, there's not many opportunities. So from very early on, we knew we were going to have to go somewhere to make something out of ourselves. So in the summer of 2015, we actually managed a car park where we managed to save a little bit of money. So then we were discussing what is our plan. We have to use this money well. So Jay went to the closest city, which was about 2 hours away, and he bought a plane ticket and a tent. And then in October of 2015, I went to Ireland. So from the day one, since I arrived here, you could see the opportunities in the air. So I actually came with a suitcase, and I had a blanket in the suitcase that I used because I used to sleep at the Grand Canal. And I would go around and give out my CVs. And it was actually in January of 2016 that I found a day's work with Keelings. And I actually walked back on the motorway. I got picked up by the guards. They gave me a lift to, I believe it was Swords.
So you were walking pretty much along the M1.
Yeah, because
and the guards had to pick you up.
No money to my name. And I walked back to Dublin from Swords, and I got a check for about 50 euros, which I used to purchase a ticket to get Jay here.
So where were you sleeping at the time? You know, when you arrived over to Ireland, did you have any money? Did you have anywhere to stay? What was...
Well, very, very minimal. I actually survived on about €1 a day. I would buy different cans of beans, peas, whatever, just to get some food and nutrition.
Yeah, so when he texted me one day, I was in Croatia, and it was fall, it was raining, it was sort of miserable. So then he said, you need to, I have a ticket for you. It's from Basel, Switzerland, and you have to get there. So somehow I managed to get the money, managed to make it over there. And the flight was, I was like, I came to Switzerland, no money. So then it was like, perfect. The flight, and there I am, my very first flight ever. And Ryanair, as you know, you need to print off the boarding pass, which I never knew. I never flown before.
Yeah.
So I asked a random person to help me out, and luckily he did. So I made it over here.
Because you couldn't afford, because I think isn't it a 30, 40 euro charge if you don't print it out, so you couldn't afford that.
Can I ask you, what age were you at this stage? What age were you, Jay?
So Alan came at 18.
18.
And I came 4 months later. I just turned 19.
So when you'd bought, like you had this tent, when you were coming over, did you always know you were going to be home, that you wouldn't have a place to stay when you came here?
We did, because there was no budget. There was no real budget. So we had to have a leap of faith.
But you see, when we came, we slept in Stevens Green, in Phoenix Park, and we had loads of stories. I remember one day waking up, and it can be rough. One person was injecting drugs next to us. Or we were once in Phoenix Park, and a deer woke us up. So it was a sort of...
deer woke you up when you were in Phoenix Park?
Yeah, yeah. It's a lovely story, you know, it's exciting. remember seeing auras, we didn't know what it was. So it was a good time. But I think really the exit from us from homelessness was in April of that year. We came aboard of a service in town. It was a big green bus outside Cleary's Clock. And there we met the chairman of Tiglin. It's who we work today with. His name was Aubrey McCarthy. And we got onto the bus. We struck a connection with Aubrey, who ended up helping us out loads. He got onto his managers. He said, you have to help these guys. And Tiglin gave us transitional housing. So that was our way out, a gateway out of homelessness.
And how long had you been homeless at this stage? Obviously, Alan, you've been here longer.
At this stage, I was homeless for 12 months.
12 months,
Yeah.
sleeping rough.
What did you do? I mean, do you try to go into different cafes? Like, did you have hope that you would find something?
Well, there's days when you question everything, but there's always hope. It took me about 8 months to find work as a kitchen porter. So I would work, save money, and at the end of the day, go to a Supra and have some food, go to the park and do it all over again.
I think interesting about Suprans is I'm so lucky, I'm so happy that they were there. I don't think I've ever eaten better in my life than when we were homeless on the streets. There was a lot of help out there.
When things are there, and thank God there are charities who will do that, and Tiglin is a homeless charity. You get this transitional housing in order to get into Tiglin. And at one stage, from going from sleeping rough in Phoenix Park, where a deer has woken you up because you're sleeping in the bushes, to being in Áras an Uachtaráin and you met Sabina Higgins, the wife of the president.
Well, that was a great honour of ours. It was the first year we were here. Aubrey McCarthy, as I mentioned, he invited us on behalf of Tiglin to come to Áras, and we went in. We had a great time. We were very welcome. I felt happy to say to Sabina and the president where we were at, and they were very encouraging to us.
Because to go to an event like this, obviously, did you have to rent a suit?
That was it was the first time.
How did that work?
One of first, that was the first time I wore a tuxedo in my life. So it was a good time, you know. But yeah, that was also a good time. Post then, we got transitional housing, and then we got so many opportunities through Tiglin. We got to one day we got to access. It was an academic evaluation.
Yeah.
Aubrey encouraged us. He said, "Education changed my life. You guys should try it out yourselves. You seem like two clever guys." And from there, we got to start off with basic courses. Ireland is very good for that. Very, very inclusive in terms of getting back into education. So we started level 5, 6, and then in 2018. Southeastern Technological University, head of lifelong learning, his name is Joe Collins. He started a degree program in tandem with Tiglin.
Yeah.
And Joe gave us an opportunity to get onto this program. And from there, we graduated with a degree. And from there, we did a master's degree. So now we're on par with everybody. Now we can, I'm studying with Maynooth, I'm studying with DCU. So now we're as good as anyone else.
And Alan, so you're both working in these Tiglin centres. You've both master's degrees. I mean, it's just incredible. You must come across people though in similar situations now in these centres. You must be a huge inspiration for people coming in through the doors.
Of course, and I'm having these conversations every day. People are in different predicaments. So I can give advice because I was there. Just for example, yesterday I was speaking to he's a bit older, and he's trying to figure out his life. And I said, just write things down, because that's always worked for me. Because when you have something on paper, it's always staring at you. So it's
do you
very
sometimes
practical.
look back on those notes? Do you still have them?
I keep a journal, yeah. So sometimes, but it's always good to reflect, and to be appreciative, because if there wasn't for Tiglin, Aubrey McCarthy, Phil Thompson, Joe Collins, I don't know where we would be today. So thanks to everyone.
Yeah, so we do plenty, and I think Tiglin, we do rehabilitation, support with education, employment, transitional housing. So there's laws, and now there's this new initiative with Southeastern Technological University, which is Higher Education Authority gave 800,000 euros to be spent for people in Tiglin's care to access third-level education, just like us. So we're very happy with that. I think people that are in our care really, if you were to look at the chart of the society, they're the marginalized ones, the ones that poverty, vulnerability, lack of opportunity. So this will really target those that really badly need it.
And it's amazing that you are giving back, working in Tiglin centres in both Pearse Street in Dublin and in Naas as well. And I know you've been here 7 years.
Yeah.
What a difference that those 7 years have made. You haven't gotten to go home yet. Is that a hope at some stage?
Yeah, we will. Yeah, we very we actually last week we received a special education award by Minister for Education Simon Harris, President of CETU, and Croatian ambassador. So we are keeping that link alive.
Guys, you're
It's phenomenal.
It's just
unbelievable.
incredible. And we hear about the amount of people in emergency accommodation in Ireland at the moment. And we see two guys who've been there, been through that, and sleeping rough in Phoenix Park, and some of the things you would have seen over the years. And to just be on here and speak so eloquently about the education and the difference, that the opportunities here in Ireland.
Well, so we're very happy to be here. And we just want to say, we meet people, we just never give up on yourself. I think there is help for everyone. You just have to get in touch with us. We will point you in the right direction at least.
If I may, if I have just a few seconds, we actually have our annual sleep out on the 13th of January. So if anyone's interested, you can go to our website, tiglin.ie, and every euro donated by anyone will be matched by a Salesforce. So if you donate 50 euros, they'll donate 50 euros. And it all goes
fair play to you. Listen, Alan, Jay, Bob and Natch, it's a pleasure to talk to you both
so
this
much.
morning.
Happy Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you both.
Thanks so much. Phenomenal story. Up next, we'll be speaking to Nicola Tallant. We'll be talking about a brand new documentary that's coming out tonight on Virgin Media One. We'll chat to you shortly. Welcome back. Now, Thomas Bomber Kavanagh, who Britain's National Crime Agency described as the head of the Kinahan cartel, was sentenced to 21 years in prison in March of this year.
Tonight, a new documentary will air on Virgin Media, and it tells the story of how he got caught.
Investigative journalist Nicola Tallant is here to talk about it. But first, Nicola, as we have you here, and we know that you are up to 90 with the Hutch trial, because obviously this is ongoing. You've been following this story for years. So where are we at in the Hutch trial? Because obviously Jonathan Dowdall has been cross-examined by Jerry the Monk Hutch's team.
Yeah, today will be day 8 of his cross-examination, gruelling. Every single aspect of these tapes, these famous tapes, the recordings of the two of them as they went up to the north in the aftermath of the Regency, as they say, the state say they were trying to mediate, trying to bring the dissidents in to mediate between the Hutch and the Kinahan organisation, but actually they were also returning the AK-47s used on the day. 10 hours of tapes. He's been brought through every little thing he said, and my God, did he talk on them. He did most of the talking. So that's gone on.
Jonathan Dowdall did most of the talking.
He did most of the talking. He's a big talker. He can't even answer yes or no. He has to kind of get a lot out, and he's actually said himself that it's sort of, you know, that he talks too much, and he talks when he's nervous, and he talks when he wants to fill space and all this sort of stuff. So it's all coming back to haunt him slightly.
So he's obviously nervous on the stand at the minute as well, and I'd imagine he's not doing much talking because
he's quite assured. Like, he's quite assured. He wants to keep the questioning to a minimum, and he regularly challenges Brendan Grehan, who is Hutch's defence. You know, why are you asking me that? You shouldn't be asking me that. It's nothing to do with the Regency. You know, he's obviously putting to him things like there's conversations about suggesting that Jonathan Dowdall may have been making bombs to bring up to the dissidents to use as a trade-off. You know, there's all sorts of stuff going, but he doesn't want to answer any of those questions. He just wants it parked and to move on. Now, he is definitely tired. I mean, it's a long time. I mean, we're tired listening to him.
Like 8 days, and you're inside in that courtroom every day, and obviously, like whether he comes off that he was playing the big man in front of one of the very big players, Jerry the Monk Hutch, of course. How long do you see this going on? Like, no, did you expect it to be 8 days of cross-examination?
Well, I've seen like 5 or 6 days of cross-examination before. Like, it's very important for the Monk, who's pleaded not guilty to the murder of David Byrne. It's very important for his defence team to really, you know, go beyond what he's saying now and try and, you know, claw back what's lies, what's truth. Because obviously Jerry Hutch's defence want to suggest, or they have said it straight out, that this is a liar. So if he's telling lies about this, he's telling lies. He's two key pieces of evidence he has against Gerry Hutch. One is that he met him days after the Regency and that Gerry Hutch confessed to him that he wasn't only involved in it, but that he was one of the shooters. And the second, no one else was at that meeting. No one witnessed it. There's no other backup for that claim. And the second is that he handed Gerry Hutch a key card for the Regency Hotel where Flat Cap, as we call him, stayed the night. Again, no one else witnessed that meeting. It was, you know, there's no other piece of evidence. Yeah. So the tapes are there and he has been very noisy on these tapes and he said this, that and the other. So really the strategy is to try and prove him as a liar. So if he's a liar, then it'll be up to the judges to decide, is he lying about these other two pieces of evidence?
OK, it is fascinating as well, but I can imagine after 8 days, it's going to keep on going. It is going to keep on going into the new year. Let's talk about this documentary though tonight, because David Byrne, of course, his brother-in-law is Thomas Bomber Kavanagh, who was arrested. Who's, what we said there, head of the Kinahan cartel supposedly as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about who is Bomber Kavanagh?
So Bomber Kavanagh is a very serious criminal who came out of Drimnagh, who would have been one of the first drug dealers that kind of came along after Larry Dunn. He very quickly moved out of Ireland after the Criminal Assets Bureau established, because he was actually their first target. And he moved to Birmingham, and we kind of...
Their first before Gilligan?
Yeah, he was himself and George the Penguin Mitchell actually were the first two targets of them. They were first brought to court. He lost a house to them back in 96 maybe.
Right.
So he moves to Birmingham and, you know, we kind of lose a little bit of him. Obviously not the guards, because there he establishes himself as a key wholesaler of drugs and weapons into Ireland. And he sort of becomes Daniel Kinahan's number two. He is, and was described by the National Crime Agency in the UK after the sentencing as the number one player in the UK and Ireland. So he was basically running the Kinahan empire in the two countries.
OK, the fall of Bomber Kavanagh, it's on tonight on Virgin Media 1 at 9 p.m. Nicola is, of course, involved. Let's take a look.
The group would refer to the person that was directing and commanding this drugs trafficking operation as the boss or the gaffer.
But crucially, there's also a photograph contained within that phone, and without question, the NCA know who the gaffer is.
When I saw that photograph of the weapons that were hidden in Bomber Kavanagh's bedroom, it gave me a chill up my spine.
Thomas Bomber Kavanagh is probably one of the most significant convictions I have seen in the course of my career.
Although the time did come when our analyst was able to say, I've got him.
OK, so it's all connected. Like what you're looking at now in Gerry the Monk Hutch's trial is connected to this. And we always think of Daniel Kinahan as one of the biggest players in the world. So this guy is very high up.
Yeah, an unknown, really, and that's what's interesting about the documentary. And also, it was because of the Hutch-Kinahan feud and because of a raid that came on the back of it in Dublin that, in the course of that raid, a piece of paper was found that led police back to warehousing that Bomber was using in Birmingham. And it was the kind of like, sort of the smoking gun, really, because the Gardaí handed over the information to the British counterparts. They put up surveillance operation on him, and we'll see tonight how it fell and how they eventually, in that document you saw, the gaffer, they were trying to prove who the gaffer was. They knew it was Bomber Kavanagh.
Just down to a piece of paper?
Well, I mean, there's a big investigation in the background, but a piece of paper found during a raid in Dublin where there was a load of weapons found, like, linked them back to companies in the UK and really was the start of unlocking his secret empire there.
Wow.
You know, the criminals have to be lucky all the time, they always say.
Yeah, because I know that you went over with the Sunday World investigative team, like, to kind of confront him, because he was happily operating in Birmingham for a very long time.
We went just before the feud, like 2015, because I knew he was very big. He was coming back in bigger and bigger cars. He was a huge, big character on the scene, and found him, like, for a guy who left Ireland penniless, having given up everything he had to the Criminal Assets Bureau. He was living in this huge, big mansion in a kind of footballer's belt of Birmingham, and You know, you just could see how big he'd got.
Oh, I mean, it sounds fascinating. Really, really does. Nicola Tallant, of course, Investigations Editor at Sunday World. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Looking forward to watching that.
Thank you very much. The Fall of Bomber Kavanagh. It airs tonight at 9 p.m. on Virgin Media One. And of course, you can keep up to date with everything that Nicola is doing in her Crime World podcast as well, which we've got an episode
Off the charts.
every day, I think. At this
Up next, Jack Horgan-Jones is going to be here with this morning's news stories. Stay with us.
Welcome back now, Taoiseach Leo Varadkar. He's only back in the hot seat just a few days, and sweeping changes. He's putting everyone into detention, taking mobile phones off everybody in the cabinet.
Well, join us to that story and everything else this morning is Jack Horgan-Jones from the Irish Times. Good morning to you,
morning.
Jack. So,
How are we doing?
Leo Varadkar is banning mobile phones from nightclubs. No, Cabinet.
From Cabinet, yes. So ministers have been told that they can't bring their mobile phones, their smartwatches or their tablets into Cabinet. And, of course, this is being widely seen as an anti-leaking measure, but government sources have strongly disputed that last night, saying that this is due to security concerns. And you can see the logic of both, really, because there have been some high-profile incidences this year of at least allegations of leaking from Cabinet, most notably around the Catherine Zappone appointment as a special envoy for freedom of speech, which was leaked almost in real time from Cabinet. There was an allegation made by Sinn Féin in the Dáil that Minister for Higher and Further Education, Simon Harris, was responsible for that, something that he denies and something that they didn't seem to have a huge amount of evidence for. Nonetheless, it stands on the Dáil record.
It's still, he never
made a complaint about it.
Never made a complaint about it. So the fact that that is literally on record.
Well, it means we can all say it as much as we want, yeah. So it is on the Dáil record. But, as I say, the impetus for this, or the reason for doing it, does seem to be more to do with security concerns. And when you think about it, I was actually talking to someone last night, a colleague who works in the kind of crime and security area, and he was saying, I can't believe it's actually taken this long. Because when you think about it, going in with essentially 1 or 2 or 3 or even 4 devices if you have a watch, tablet, phone, laptop. I mean, these are all basically kind of portals or potential entry points for what is becoming a fairly sophisticated army of state actors, hackers or semi-state or associated hackers. And we saw just how effective these guys can be when they hacked the HSE last year. So, you know, it's probably a prudent step, and it's a little bit of fun as well, because, you know, it remains to be seen how effective it'll be at clamping down at leaking. I've been a beneficiary of a Cabinet leak.
I know, I'd say a few text messages in the back, you're going to have to wait till the
we'll just have to wait and see.
And you know, they're just sitting there just looking at outfits of the day on Instagram going, I can't see what's been worn by whomever.
Health, is he?
It's still, oh God, you shut up. Another story that you have on the front of the Irish Times today, and that is, now I think all of these sweeping measures are going to annoy the crap out of people. And this is about cutting carbon emissions by a fifth, by car parking spaces. Tell us what's going on.
So basically the Climate Action Plan is an annual kind of list of actions, the clue is in the name, that is designed to give effect to the government's promises, political promises to reduce emissions. So it's the step-by-step guide on how they're going to actually bring it down. And this year there's a big focus on reducing the amount of car parking available. So that might manifest itself in a few ways. First of all, in the public sector. So we always hear about the fact that there's a lot of public sector car parking spaces associated with government departments or local authorities or whatever, and they're often in town centres. So they're going to look to bring those down, but they're also going to look to reduce on-street car parking and things like that, and reduce free car parking in local authority areas as a kind of move towards, I think, Myrne, you hit the nail on the head, kind of annoying people out of bringing their cars into town. And it's steps like this that move those kind of abstract political commitments on climate to something concrete and real. And it's things like this that make it that little bit more politically tricky, I think. And it's something, it's one to watch for next year as the kind of the environmental changes and the climate change policy changes become real for people in a way that previously has always been abstract. I think it becomes much more politically volatile. You saw it last year with the turf, you know, which was kind of like a bit of a leading edge indicator that when people are actually asked to make a change that they feel either affects them in terms of their cultural identity or in terms of whether they're able to park in town, that's when things can become politically toxic.
It hasn't gone as hardline as I thought it was going to be, as far as I know. But like Eamon Ryan, I heard him go, we're going for it. We're going to really try and go for this. But I mean, as soon as civil servants start not getting their parking spaces, but there aren't buses and systems to get into city, like they're not going to be able Are
And
they
this
actually
is it,
going
like,
to be able to make these changes?
you have to build it for them to be able to come. You know, you
Yeah.
have to actually put these new kind of big pieces of infrastructure in place. You have to be able to forge ahead with bus connects and all these public realm improvements. You can't just kind of withdraw the safety net. So I think there's a massive kind of logistical coordination piece to get there, to get right as well.
I
there,
don't
you
know if there'll be a lot of sympathy for taking car
Mm.
parking places off civil servants when you've got nurses who are getting clamped
Oh,
after
yeah,
doing 12-hour
absolutely.
shifts. You know
Yes,
what I
true.
mean?
Yeah.
Kind of going, if there are people who should have free car parking spaces, it's people who work in the healthcare service. You know, it just seems a little bit bonkers. Let us know what you think. 0896 111 111. If you were a civil servant, you're going to kick up if they take. I would be kicking up if I'm
If you're a
working there for
nurse, a
20
teacher,
years.
something like that, exactly
Something like
as
that.
you say,
It happened.
Yeah.
Very quickly. Unusual Christmas traditions. You like doing what's your you do oranges.
Oranges.
Oranges for London. What is it?
Oranges studded with cloves. So you poke a load of cloves into an orange and boil it, and it fills the house with this kind of Christmassy smell.
You do that all the time. Every
I
Christmas.
do it at least once a Christmas.
Do you have
I did
any
it- I did it
star
last-
anise or anything else in there? Just
Sure,
cloves.
why not? Yeah.
Why, just lump it all in.
exactly.
And maybe some
Get
mulled wine
creative
and
with it,
everything
Tommy,
else.
why not?
Drink it.
Yeah, exactly.
We want to hear about your unusual, that's not the same as everyone else, your unusual Christmas traditions. Just to
Christmas
give
Day
us some
swim.
ideas.
Christmas
you
Day
do it?
swim, we do, yeah. In Emmy Vale, Emmy Lake.
Oh, he'll be there.
What
He's
about
looking
you?
forward
You
to
do
it.
anything?
No. 0896 111 111. We'd love to hear from you on that this
No
morning.
traditions.
I'm sure I do. My
humbug.
mother opens every single present to see what's inside. Is that an unusual Christmas
Still
tradition?
to come this morning, we're going to review the biggest political stories of the year. Jack Horgan Jones is going to hang around for that.
Yes, plus we'll be uncovering the science behind Santa's sleigh. We'll talk to you very shortly. Welcome back, and you know we've got much more to come between now and 10 a.m. We've got the year's political highs and lows, a Christmas dish that some find gross, and a cellist who can really handle a bow. So much.
There we go.
So much.
Well, very good. It's going to be very exciting. I'm looking forward to this from Matt Hancock entering the I'm a Celeb jungle to Leo Varadkar's Fridge Frenzy. We're going to be looking at the biggest political stories from 2022.
Leo, his fridge, has made it into the biggest political stories of 2022.
It was pretty
Grim.
Yeah.
Grim is what it was. We're celebrating the magic of Christmas with scientist Phil Smith, who'll be showing us how to make minty reindeer toothpaste. Yes, even Santa's helpers struggle with morning
Maybe
breath.
to leave it out for the reindeers on Christmas
Yeah,
Eve. There
yeah,
we go.
you know what I
Also,
mean?
Patrick Dexter's breathtaking cello performances from his home in County Mayo have become an internet sensation. He's going to give us a little live performance later on.
And over in the kitchen, Scott Holder is making sprouts sexy ahead of Christmas. Is that right?
Is that
Morning.
possible?
We've got some Brussels sprouts on today. Yeah, not my favourite part of the Christmas meal, so we're going to put a little twist on it this morning.
Love your honesty, but you're getting is chorizo going in? Like chorizo makes everything taste good.
We've got
doesn't it?
chorizo, we've got a citrus and maple syrup dressing, and some toasted hazelnuts.
So basically, everything, and then just take the sprouts out, and you're perfect.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
good to go.
No, they'll be good. They'll be good.
Looking forward to that a little bit later on. Now, Derek is one of the most festive pubs in Dublin this morning. Derek, how are you getting on?
Yeah, Tommy, we're down here at the Hole in the Wall in Dublin 7 this morning. Bit of a blustery one out there with that mixture of sunshine and some scattered heavy showers out there this Wednesday, because we come down here because we're down to surprise a local nursing home with a big charity check. I have it here in my hand. I'm not going to give away the figure just yet, but it's a whopper amount of money. That's all to come in and around 8:45. Guess how much it is, guys? I kind of feel like Santa.
I wonder, is it as much money as E17 make every Christmas?
Stay another day.
Thanks, Derek.
Also,
Good stuff. Catch you later.
He's in a pub. Don't be letting the guards know. Derek's in a pub very early before it should be. It's early doors there. It's time now to take a look at this morning's papers, starting with the Irish Times. Its headline: Climate Plan aims to cut car trip distances by a fifth. Government reforms will seek to curb car parking where public transport options exist and reduce the distance driven by motorists by a fifth as part of an attempt to reduce emissions.
Angry Phil Hogan's blistering attack on populist Varadkar is the top story on the Irish Independent. Former EU Commissioner Phil Hogan has launched a stinging attack on Taoiseach Leo Varadkar, who he accused of abandoning his principles after he was elected Fine Gael leader.
The Examiner leads with Harris pledges resources to tackle feud. Gardaí armed with some machine guns and automatic pistols were positioned at checkpoints in Rathkeale, County Limerick yesterday, assisting unarmed colleagues after abhorrent and unacceptable violence flared in the town in recent days.
Varadkar bans mobile phones from cabinet is the top story on the Daily Mail. Leo Varadkar is banning his ministers from bringing mobile phones into cabinet meetings amid concerns about leaks and electronic spying.
The Herald goes with Dowdall. I was full of hit. Former Sinn Féin councillor Jonathan Dowdall has denied he suggested getting the IRA to carry out hits during sinister banter he had in a bugged conversation with murder-accused Jerry the Monk Hutch.
The Sun leads with Cameron, our beautiful boy forever. Murdered Cameron Riley was remembered as a beautiful child as his killer was sentenced to life in jail.
And the Mirror goes with Ooh Ah, I'll Fight McGrath. Conor McGregor challenged PJ Gallagher and Paul McGrath to a 2-on-1 boxing match following a social media spat. Mad. Now, after the break, from the UK having 3 prime ministers in just 1 year. That was all this year. You forget about that.
Yeah.
To Russia invading Ukraine. We're taking a look back at some of the biggest political stories from the year. We'll talk to you shortly.
Well, 2022, it certainly has been an eventful year in politics.
We're joined by Aoife Moore from the Sunday Times and Jack Horgan-Jones from the Irish Times to take us through the top year's political stories. Hello to you both. It's lovely to have you here.
Hello.
And we're just sitting here going, so the top international story, it has been the UK. Like, Aoife, this 3 prime ministers in 1 year.
Not the war in Europe.
No.
The 3 prime ministers in the UK. It was like a revolving door at one point. Do you remember Boris almost came back?
Yeah.
After he resigned. There was
Came back from
talk-
holiday, first of all.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then
On
there
the
was talk
plane,
that he
in
might
a suit.
return. He might return as prime minister even after Liz Truss resigned. There was a brief moment where they said, "What about Boris? Let's bring him back."
So it was the whole thing. So we thought that they could never get rid of Boris. It
Yeah.
looked
Yes.
like he was just this Teflon. Eventually, he did move on.
After an accumulation of scandals, yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, like, he obviously had the Partygate stuff, but what finally did for him was the Chris Pincher affair, this suggestion that he was aware of allegations against his deputy chief whip before he made him chief whip. And I think that kind of brought everything home.
And what were
kind
the
of spoke
allegations
to
with
his-
Chris Pincher?
That he was basically
Sexually harassing young
harassing
men,
or assaulting
yeah.
people.
Yes.
Who he worked for, or who worked for him rather, and it brought home a lot of the kind of concerns I think people had about Boris Johnson, that he was just willing to tolerate low standards in high places ad nauseum to any extent, so long as he was kept in those high places.
If I remember right, he actually said that he was first made aware of the allegations in 2009.
9. I read that as well. It's
And then
not
he
just
still
insane.
made him chief whip. And then that was after the wallpaper in Downing Street that cost a fortune, that was paid for by a donor, you know, the herd immunity decision in COVID.
But listen,
the
you could see
numerous
why
parties in
they
Downing
didn't want to
Street.
get rid of him, because next up was Liz Truss.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't get much better, did it?
Let us Liz.
Let us Liz.
The more you think about this, the more like funny bits and bits of scandal
Yeah.
you've forgotten about this. I mean, there's enough scandal that you've forgotten about in relation to all these stories to fill a book, you
And
know?
then the most historic thing was the Queen died in the very
Yeah.
short period that Liz Truss was the Prime
On
Minister.
the 8th of September. Like, Liz was there for how many days? And all the 42, and in the middle of all this, one of the biggest moments in UK modern
Yeah.
history happens, and Liz
I feel bad for the
involved.
Queen. I feel like the Queen, like, she probably died thinking, "Oh my God, it's Liz Truss." She doesn't even know we got rid of her. She doesn't even know she's gone.
And for all his faults, of which there are many, Boris Johnson, I think we can agree, would have done, like, you know, that job of being the big Brit at that
anyone
time.
who would be
the big
It's the role that he was born to play.
He
you know
would
what I
have
mean?
been so. There'd be nobody more.
So maybe
gutted
it's
that
just
he missed
desserts that he wasn't able to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think there was a moment when we all felt like Charles when Liz goes into the room to see him, and he's like, "Oh dear, you're still here."
He went,
Essentially,
"Dear, oh dear, back again."
back again, but not for long, because after her 44 days,
Yes.
and it's been so funny because it's been quite quiet. Rishi Sunak
Yeah.
has been the Prime Minister for a while now.
Probably more than 42 days
Yeah,
at this stage. So,
probably, yeah.
You know?
And it's quieting down a bit.
Yeah, because we were used to so much scandal. And then Rishi Sunak came along, and the point was everyone was just like, give him a go. How bad could it be? They really had Boris and Liz Truss.
They call it the dullness dividend.
Yes.
So that's the kind of the quietening effect on the markets. Because remember, the real reason that Liz Truss got the bullet was because of that disastrous mini-budget.
Yeah.
And what happened afterwards at the financial markets. And it looked like all of a sudden, geez, the IMF were coming over the horizon. So he has calmed things down. It's the dullness dividend. But, like, you know, he hasn't solved anything yet. The
They're
Britain's still
currently
going
in
to
the
kind of hell
midst
in a
of,
handbasket.
they're currently in the midst of like 12 different strikes.
Massive.
Yeah.
I mean,
At the
it's
moment.
absolutely insane.
big winter
there at the
discontent
minute.
kind of
Listen,
vibes,
let's
yeah.
bring
Yeah.
things back home, because we don't have a huge amount of time. Irish political crisis, of course. We're probably talking about Ukraine, cost of living crisis here as well, housing crisis.
They're all three
It's-
interconnected. You know, it's it's the war in Ukraine and the associated cost of living crisis and the impact on energy bills, but also the refugee crisis that is really kind of the big challenge for this year, and I think probably next year as well, because it's going to cost a huge amount of money. It's going to take up a huge amount of policy-making attention. It's going to, I think, become more and more politically contentious as the year wears on.
I actually think in terms of Irish politics, we've had a quiet year in terms of scandals, because we were on a good run there for a good while. Like, we were getting quite a lot of scandals every
quite
year.
a few, yeah.
And I actually think the Ukraine crisis has taken over so much that's why we're having less of our own political scandals, because we have so much other stuff going on now.
Too busy for scandal.
We're too busy for scandal.
Yeah, it's actually serious business that is going on right now, but it is, people's lives have been very much impacted. And after COVID, we were like, okay, we're going to have a break, and the next thing it's, no.
Yeah, we had a break of about a week and a half, I think, before the war started.
Then...
and I actually think as well, I've actually found with people my own age, there has never been such a sense of despair about the housing crisis. You know, like, the government or the Taoiseach has rotated now, but for most people my age, like when I'm talking to them, they don't see any light at the end of this.
Like, if it was going to be a scandal, it was going to be about housing. And then, of course, Robert Troy was the man who came up with it.
Yeah, Robert Troy. Properties are to Robert Troy. What children are to Boris Johnson. Just can't remember.
How many does he have?
So that is the question, because this rumbled on, and this is the scandal we had this year.
Whom amongst us has not forgotten how many gaffes we own?
I mean...
Every day I'm forgetting.
I mean, you get one here, you get one there, you seek him here, you seek him there.
When you start at the age of 20, when you buy your first investment property at the age of 20, it's easy to forget.
No,
right?
there was an issue when Robert Troy did come out. So he was a minister. He's a Fianna Fáil junior minister, and Robert Troy did become embroiled in this scandal because he failed to declare rental properties, and he's used Dáil time in order to speak about landlords,
advocate for the rights of landlords. Yeah.
He also failed to declare.
He sold a house.
Yeah, but there was a defence in there as well. I think you had that story where he failed to register a property. That was it. Yeah.
To the RTB.
With the RTB, which is an offence.
And this is the sort of thing when we're in a housing crisis, like we have been for years. People were just not willing to put up with this, Aoife.
Yeah, I think as well, what Irish people and the Irish public really don't like is the drip. It's the Phil Hogan thing. It's the drip feed of information. If you come out in the first instance and say, this is everything. The Robert Troy thing, I was thinking about this last week. It was 14 days from start to finish. Yeah. From it first coming out, from him admitting it, to resigning, it was 14 days. And every day, it was just a new thing. There was this gaff and that gaff. There's a house here, a house there.
That contract with this county council, the other contract with the other county council. And that was the other thing that was really interesting about it. There was just like this huge amount of income coming from the state. And while there's nothing improper or illegal about that, I think people were kind of taken aback that they didn't know this and that there was no disclosure obligation actually attached to that, that a sitting TD could be earning so much as a landlord, but also so much from local authorities and from the state itself.
Robert Troy, gaff of the year. Well, actually, let's...
Too many gaffs of the year.
Too many gaffs. Let's move on to Sean Fleming. Yes. He had a bit of a gaff, didn't he?
He did. This is all the way back in February, where he basically... This was at the very start of the cost of living crisis, just as energy prices and all the rest of it and food prices are really losing the run of themselves. And he just said, look, guys, you should go and shop around and stop complaining and looking for the government to do things for you. And what are these people cribbing and moaning over? And of course, the backlash was immediate.
Will we listen to him say this out loud?
Let's remember.
This is Sean Fleming here.
The main advice I would like your listeners to hear today, and it's so simple people will get bored hearing it, is switch everything. Switch your electricity supplier and you'll get a reduced price. But
shop around.
It takes effort to shop and switch, and if people make an effort, they can save a lot of money. And people will tell you they've changed insurance companies, they've changed the supermarket they've changed their electricity supplier. So rather than just complaining and what's the government going to do for me, you can actually have a serious impact on your own finance, but it involves people having to do some work themselves.
The room.
Minister for State in the Department of Finance was telling people when they were, certain people with shops that we've talked to here, getting €30,000, electricity bills. Shop around, it'll sort you out.
To be fair, there is a bit of truth to it. Maybe.
It's Conor Pope is telling you to shop around, not a Minister for State in the Department of Finance.
But to say, don't just expect handouts from the government.
But people have
to do
been doing this already. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like common sense.
Yes.
People tend to have common sense. That's why it's common. You know.
I think as well it was the tone.
Yeah, it was
lecturing people. He seemed incredibly out of touch. just shop around. Stop
Yeah.
coming to the government in a once-in-a-lifetime war in Europe that's ruining energy prices.
Yeah.
Shop around, people.
This is literally what you're here for. We have to come to you to sort things out. Let's move on to Aoife, your political gaffe of the year. I mean, it's been talked about. Like, there's what can we say? What is it, Aoife?
Sometimes I think Leo Varadkar does this on purpose.
So do I.
Right?
100%.
So I think he enjoys the slagging of it, right? So this year, I can't even remember when it was because time is a flat circle now, but Leo Varadkar took a photograph of some Tupperwares in his fridge in what was indecipherable food. I think some of it is pancakes. It looks like chunks of meat are in there.
Look like chunks. It looks like gone off quiche.
People put it up. Now, my friend Emer McLysaght describes it as Leo Varadkar's grim aesthetic.
Yes.
So it is the grimmest looking thing I have ever seen in my life, right? So obviously when he put it up, people were like, Leo, love yourself. You don't have to eat this way. This is so awful and depressing. So then the Food Safety Authority had to get involved because they were like, oh, you should really have a lid on those things. Like, you shouldn't have them open. And it had this, the look of the food was so bland and awful. And then, as if to make it worse, Leo tweeted again. He was like, oh no, now I'm in trouble with Matt because everyone was saying, like, the food looked so grim. And he was like, we do usually put lids on. So what I think happened, my personal theory.
So here he is, he's got the lids
So yeah,
now.
they put up a second one where it looks like a nice Mexican bean salad, like a fruit and veg. And I think what happened was Matt was mid-prep and Leo just shoved everything in the fridge to take the photograph.
100%. They definitely had lids on, but it was the sort of thing that people are like, oh, they love to. It's like, obviously, we put lids on things. Come on.
But I do think it was like the Battenberg birthday cake as well.
Yes.
Do you remember the sad wee birthday cake you had with a candle in it?
But doesn't it distract from bigger issues? Because we lost the run of ourselves for 4 days.
We talked about this all week.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
And then there started being the worst people on air started debating whether meal prep was neoliberal, and I was like, I need to log off. Like, this is the worst discourse ever.
I mean, poor old Matt. To be fair, he's
I
done all
know.
that meal prep and then he just, exactly, before it's even finished.
Matt's
just
like,
puts
just
a
give me a
picture
break,
out there.
Leo.
I would
give me a
love
break.
to know, I think as a Christmas present to the country, now as a sitting Taoiseach, I want the Taoiseach to get that first photograph out and tell us what is
was
in
in
those
it?
lunchboxes.
He never did, Matt.
I won't sleep until I
Matt,
know.
we need a real exclusive. That's what we need. We'll do a whole hour-long special on the Tonight Show for something like that.
Let's move on finally. Politician of the year quickly. You're going green, Jack.
I'm going green, yeah, but backbench Green Rebels, Nasa Horgan and Patrick Costello, who had the kind of courage of their convictions a lot this year and were willing to vote against the government on the National Maternity Hospital. And then I think particularly for Patrick Costello, who took a Supreme Court challenge against the government over the CETA case, which is obviously not without its own degree of risk, and had to face some kind of nasty comments at times from then Taoiseach Leo Varadkar, who said that, you know, he doesn't think he's going to win and that he hopes the state lands him with costs afterwards. So it was a real vindication and an important point of law as well.
Fight for what they believe in there as well.
Oh, no, it's not just what he believes in. This is a Green Party policy.
Yeah.
They're against this. The Green Party have campaigned against this. And Eamon Ryan's like, no, CETA's fine now. Don't be making waves. And then Patrick Costello took it to the Supreme Court. Could have lost his own house trying to pay for this. And
It was against which policy? Because this
CETA, it's a trade agreement with Canada.
Yes.
But it would bring in investor courts, which is what is found now to be unconstitutional.
Yeah. So that was the thing that they've long talked about within the Green Party.
Totally vindicated on a really important point of law by the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Good on him.
Couldn't agree
more.
His partner, Hazel Chu, is obviously a barrister, and I would say that helped.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's actually in the right. It's in the right.
Aoife, your politician of the year.
Lisa Chambers.
Lisa, the senator.
A senator, yeah.
Oh, she's brought through that.
Yeah, so Lisa Chambers wrote the stalking legislation
very
this
good.
year and brought it to Helen McEntee. It was brought through this year. And also she's currently writing online safety legislation to do with catfishing.
Yes.
So that you can't, it'll now be an offence. If this bill gets passed, it will be an offence to impersonate someone else online. I think Lisa Chambers, and I've always been a big fan of her, but if there was any fairness in the world, she would obviously be the next leader of Fianna Fáil. It doesn't look like that's going to happen now. But for someone who lost her sheet very publicly, went onto the Shannon. She's an absolute workhorse.
It's a good ad
you
for the
know.
Shannon, isn't it?
It is,
Because, I mean, the Shannon obviously gets criticised, but it shows that when someone kind of grabs it by the scruff of the neck and is willing to go in and do the kind of slog work on writing legislation.
And she really
it's a good
has.
opportunity.
And the thing is, people know the Shannon that a lot of people aren't watching what's going on in the Shannon. So you could go in there and take the money and disappear, but she's not
Many of them
doing
do.
that.
Catfish and the catfish story with the two Johnnies, that didn't make it in. That's maybe for tomorrow's roundup. Ethan Moore from the Sunday Times, thank you very much. And Jack Horgan-Jones for the Irish Times as well. Great to have you with us.
Happy Christmas. Happy Christmas, guys.
Now, this may be the most it is the most divisive part of the Christmas dinner. Brussels sprouts. What Scott Holder from Los Chicanos is here to give us, because Scott, I'm going to be doing Christmas dinner this year.
Yeah.
Brussels sprouts, my wife loves them. I'm not a big fan, but you're going to give us a new way of cooking them to, well, make them not taste like Brussels, hopefully.
Exactly, yeah. That's our Brussels sprouts there. They're normally my least favourite part of the dish. I either try to...
Oh, you're the same, so you're not a huge
100%.
fan?
No, I either try to eat them first and get rid of them or give them to the dog under the table. So, we're going to do a slightly different take on Brussels sprouts and hopefully we can convert a few people.
Is this kind of like a Mexican take? Because you're kind of Los Chicanos is more Mexican, is it?
No, just going totally Christmassy. So I find a lot of people boil Brussels sprouts, and that's just how they're served. And
that's what we do, yeah.
It's not exactly the nicest texture.
So have you boiled these ones that you're sticking into the pan?
So I boiled these first in salted water.
Okay.
And then I've just cut them in half, and now we're going to fry them. So you can do that the day before. That's all. I mean, I think consistency, the more prep you can do ahead.
Is it important to boil them and then put them into cold water after I read?
I mean...
to kind of stop the cooking process?
Yeah, that's something you do with green vegetables to basically maintain the colour and to stop them cooking. With it, like a Brussels sprout, it's not going to have too much an effect because they're quite hardy. But you could certainly go that extra mile and do that if you wanted.
So you've got Brussels cut in half that are pre-boiled, and then you put chorizo in the other pan.
Chorizo's in this pan, yeah. Then we're going to make a citrus maple dressing.
Okay.
So we've got orange and lemon juice, and then the zest of both.
Oh, in a jar?
Yeah, so this is going to be like a little salad dressing cocktail shaker.
Okay, nice.
So you could do all your salad dressings like this from now on.
So would the juice of one orange and one lemon be enough?
Juice of one orange and one lemon, 2 tablespoons of maple syrup, and then we're going to go with our olive oil.
Okay, right. And now, will you be cooking Christmas dinner?
I don't. So my mum is also a chef, and I tend to stay away because we just get into little debates as to which way it should be. So she usually kicks me out of the kitchen.
So you've grown up in a restaurant pretty much then? So this has always been kind of so you've always had a good Christmas dinner?
Always had a very good Christmas dinner. I look forward to it for sure, except the Brussels sprouts. So yeah, we actually grew up, my parents had a restaurant back in the 80s in Temple Bar, and we lived on the top floor, so it's kind of been in...
All right, so it's in the genes
In the genes.
But it's always a busy time of the year then for the restaurant trade?
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, it's probably one of the busiest times of the year, especially if you're in town and things like that.
Like, so it must be stressful, is it? Like, it adds the extra stress to Christmas Day.
It can be, yeah, if you've been working right up to Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. We're taking a little winter break at the moment with Los Chicanos, so we're not too bad.
Very nice.
Okay, so salad dressing, you basically just put it in your jam jar and just give it a little shake like that. And I would make all your dressings like that, and then you can just keep it in the fridge.
Okay.
Ready to go. Pop
and
it
just
out
give it a
whenever you
shake
want.
anytime you're going to use it.
Take it out. The oil might solidify a little bit, so just take it out half an hour before, give it a little shake.
You know what, those Brussels sprouts done like that, would you cook them in the chorizo oil? Would that work?
Yeah, definitely. If you're at home, cook it in the chorizo oil. We have a little less time here, so doing it in 2 pans.
Okay.
But cook the chorizo and then afterwards do the Brussels sprouts in that dish.
Oh, very nice.
We've still got a little bit of time here.
Yeah.
So then we just take our orange, cut both ends off it, and just peel it around like that with the knife.
Look at that, okay. Very good. This is good, isn't it? So what's this going to do?
Just gives it a really nice texture, and you just get the orange itself.
I never would have thought orange and Brussels sprouts would have been.
And then just slice it along like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Lovely.
So we'll take our Brussels sprouts.
In there.
Take our maple citrus dressing.
Okay, lovely.
Really coat it really nice and well. Give a nice little toss. Like that.
I mean, I just think
into our dish.
It's a fantastic idea, but while I'm trying to prep the rest of the Christmas dinner to do this, like, what could you kind of
So I would do
prepped?
the Brussels sprouts the day before, cook them.
Okay, so you have the Brussels sprouts done, you have the dressing done. So really all you're doing is the chorizo and then just fry the Brussels sprouts in it after.
Toast your hazelnuts the day before.
Okay.
And also slice your orange the day before.
Oh, okay.
So really quick and easy.
And no chili flakes, because he's fired a load of chili flakes into that one. It's way too hot for me.
No, it's not. I put a few chili flakes in for a little bit of heat and a little bit of colour.
Go on. Oh, no, don't put it in. Don't. Come on, I'm going to eat them. Right, let's try this one. Right, so Brussels sprouts before Christmas. Here we go. Covered in maple juice. Well, you can really taste the orange in that.
Yeah. Nice citrusy, little bit of heat from the chorizo. Nice crunch of the hazelnuts.
Chorizo just makes everything taste
It
good,
does.
doesn't it? This is Scott Holder from Los Chicanos. Thank you so much for joining
Thanks,
us on
Tommy.
that one. Let us know. Brussels sprouts. Do you eat them in your house? Can you have Christmas dinner without them? Let us know. 0896 111 111. We'd love to hear from you. Now, after the break, Derek is in Phoenix Park for a very worthy cause. We'll see you after this short break.
All this week, we are giving away a 2-night stay in a luxury room for 2 people with breakfast each morning in any select hotel of Ireland, plus a €100 gift voucher to use towards treats such as dinner, spa, or afternoon tea. Give the Christmas gift of choice. A Select Hotels gift voucher can be used in any of their Irish hotels nationwide. Enjoy luxury accommodation, fabulous dining experiences, and relaxing spa treatments. Select Hotels gift voucher, the perfect stress-free gift this Christmas. Select Hotels e-vouchers are available to buy online at selecthotels.ie for instant delivery by email worldwide direct to the recipient's inbox. To be in with a chance to win this prize, just answer the following question. What do you typically put on the top of your Christmas tree? Is it A, star, or B, snowman? To enter, call 1550 999 317 or text HOTEL to 57199.
Welcome back. Now, Derek's been out and about all morning investigating one festive fundraiser that'll make for a Merry Christmas for some very deserving people.
Stay now, stay now.
You're just
I love
loving
the
his look.
E17. Loving it. Derek, tell us more.
Lads, can I just say, I'm only getting that E17 reference right about now. I actually thought you had guests in studio. I thought you had them back at base. We kind of look like twins. Anyway, welcome down here to the Hole in the Wall in Dublin 7. Good morning, guys. Oh, we're going to pop in here. Martin, what a spread.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yes, it's a great opportunity here today just to talk to TV3 and tell them about what we're doing.
It's virtual media, Martin. Anyway, Martin, you're no stranger to fundraising. In fact, you've been fundraising for a long, long time.
Yeah, the fundraising is part of the ethos of what we do here. And over the last year, we've probably raised about €150,000 for fundraisers. So this year, we've worked with Dogs Trust, we've worked with Cycle Against Suicide, St. Vincent's on the Navan Road, and today we have a very, very special presentation to make.
For the nursing home, just local. Now, talk about some of the fundraisers, because I know you did was it the Mizzen to Malin cycle?
We did Mizzen to Malin last year, and this year we did Malin to Mizzen. And that was a €35,000 fundraiser we did last year. And next year we're hoping to do both ways in 1 week.
In 1 week. Now, you've a lot of your crew around. I know every weekend you have a little fundraiser. All your little dashers come down.
The Dashers, yeah. Dashers was set up as our fundraising arm of the Dash Cafe. And it's been a fantastic thing. It's about community collaborations for good causes. And that's how we work it every Sunday morning.
Now, Jennifer, you're in the local nursing home here in the Phoenix Park. Tell us about the work you do.
I am. I work as part of the Friends of St Mary's. I'm the treasurer of the lotto that we run each week, and I also work as a laundry assistant for St Mary's Hospital
Now,
as
you're
well.
there a long time.
I am.
You're there almost 21 years?
I am.
21 years. And what's it like in the nursing home at the moment?
It's absolutely brilliant. I love work. I love going to work every day. And the atmosphere is always great. I love chatting to the residents. I love getting to know their visitors, their families.
And you've a
It's
lot
just
of
brilliant.
residents up there, don't you?
We have 150 residents.
150. A big wave to them as well, because I know a lot of them
everybody.
are tuned in this morning in St Mary's. And of course, the last 2 years, I suppose, have been quite difficult with COVID, haven't they?
It has been, yeah. Really, really tough. But hopefully this year we can make a difference to each resident on Christmas morning.
And you were saying, like, even last year things got so bad that you didn't even have a Christmas tree in the nursing home.
Well, things got so bad, yes, that it was restriction to visitors, the residents going home and stuff like that. But it was all for our own safety.
Yes, but a very tough time. But now things have returned back to normal.
Well, it has at the moment. Thank God for that.
Yeah.
And hopefully this year it is a lot better. We have the place decorated, and it's a much more happier place with lights and trays and seeing everyone happy.
Yeah, there's a great atmosphere. Now, Martin, you did a very special fundraiser here recently. Tell us about it.
Well, we met Jennifer and Derek in the Phoenix Park one morning, and they said it would be such a nice idea to maybe raise some money for the residents in the Phoenix Park, and maybe on Christmas morning give them a little present, each of the residents there, maybe €25 for Christmas. So we organised a wine and dinner for them, and out of that we think we've raised the money to give each and every resident money on Christmas morning.
Now, Jennifer, this is, as far as I understand, a complete surprise. You don't know what we're going to do here, does she?
No, she doesn't. She doesn't.
No, this is
So
the
we
beauty
were
of
successful.
live TV.
It was a successful.
So we have a little check. I'm just going to pop over here. A big round of applause, because we're going to present you with a check for €5,000. So this is for the residents. How do you feel?
This is amazing, absolutely brilliant. And to thank Martin and the staff at the Whole of the Wall for raising this for our residents. And 150 residents will wake up Christmas morning with a present at the end of their bed.
It's
it'll be very
unbelievable.
successful.
It is unbelievable. Give him a big bula bus. Absolutely fantastic. And lots more fundraisers to come.
Lots more. Next year we're hoping to do Malin to Mizzen and back up again within 4 days. So
There's no stopping here.
1,400k. No stopping us.
I might
at all.
join in myself.
The whole lot.
All right, well, thank you so much. Great work, great fundraising. A big shout out to all the residents in the nursing home as well. Best wishes from everyone at RLM. But for now, from me and all the team here at the Hall of the Wall in Dublin 7, a big shout out. Back to you guys in studio.
Congratulations. That's
Amazing.
lovely. Fantastic.
£5,000.
Well done to everybody involved in that, though. Just it's a nice positive spin on Christmas.
Absolutely, and they've cracked open the mince pies over there. Tommy's got a big smile on his face. And coming up in the final hour of Ireland AM today, Phil Smith, the scientist, is making it snow with his Christmas-themed experiments.
No way.
Oh, no. Did you enjoy that one? Wow.
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 In the background. Plus, marvellous musician Patrick Dexter talks viral cello sets and no Wi-Fi in the West. Stay with us. There'll be lots more
No
of
way!
You're very welcome back to the show. I'm getting into the festive spirit.
Outfit
Finally.
change.
Huh?
He's got an outfits change middle of the show.
Final hour.
Just, you
Feeling
know.
Christmassy. Ho, ho, ho.
What are
Mince
you going to have on
pies and all that.
tomorrow if this is
all
the
out,
second last
all
day?
out tomorrow.
All out tomorrow.
Still to come in the final hour of Ireland AM, we've got some festive frocks for Christmas Day, a viral cellist who can really play, and science behind Santa's magical sleigh.
We're really enjoying the rhyming today. We're going for it so much. Cello
Today, like
sensation. Patrick Dexter talks going viral with his stunning outdoor performances. Plus, he plays his festive single live at the end of the show.
Amazing. Scientist Phil Smith brings the magic of Christmas to our homes with some festive themes experience.
I'm just
What's up?
noticed that you're lashing into a mince.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
yes,
On
you're
your screen this
reaching.
morning. Phil, good morning. What
Morning,
have you got for
Phil.
us?
I've got Christmas cheer and I've got Christmas experiments with snow, Santa's stealth as well. I'm going to figure out like a little bit of how Santa can fly stealthily and get into our homes
And
without
Santa's toothpaste as well, because he's going to have cookies and mince pies.
Lots
You
of
need
stuff.
to be able to wash
He
it.
just
or
uses
reindeers.
Rudolph stuff. It's easier. So we're going to make a home experiment that you can get a bit of foamy.
That hat is phenomenal.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm as elfy as I could get.
It's on point. Like, that is, wow. That
you.
is amazing.
He
I
looks
love
like
that.
an elf on the shelf.
And do you know what we're going to do? We're going to get the legs out over in the catwalk. Lorna, what have you got for us?
Yes, so we've lots of gorgeous last-minute festive must-haves coming up this morning. Maybe you're looking for something for Christmas Day, maybe New Year's Eve, maybe you've got a winter wedding coming up the next week and a half, perfect for day 2. This here on Kerry, absolutely gorgeous. And we're tying lots of key trends as well. And of course, we are keeping it super budget friendly. So yeah, lots to come.
Super, Lauren. Thank you very much for that.
Now, Derek is in the Phoenix Park all morning. Is it too early to ask? Is it going to be a white Christmas, Derico?
You know what? I am fully on board now with these E17 vibes. I only got the reference, lads. It only clicked with me about 20 minutes ago. Anyway, well, no sign of a white Christmas, although it looks like I'm dressed for the snow out there this morning. But plenty of blustery weather, in fact, some heavy rain, so a little bit of spot flooding. But guys, how nice was it to hand over that cheque to the nursing home earlier on? $5,000, and hopefully a lovely surprise for them when they wake up on Christmas morning. Beautiful.
Certainly was. I just love that. But Derek, we were slagging you off about being from E17
Since 7 a.m.
all morning, and it was going over his head.
Tommy's in here going, I don't think he gets what we're doing. We had to send him videos and everything.
Great stuff, Derek. Plenty of good news always when Derek's around.
All this week, we are giving away a 2-night stay in a luxury room for 2 people with breakfast each morning in any select hotel of Ireland, plus a €100 gift voucher to use towards treats such as dinner, spa or afternoon tea. Give the Christmas gift of choice. A Select Hotels gift voucher can be used in any of their Irish hotels nationwide. Enjoy luxury accommodation, fabulous dining experiences and relaxing spa treatments. Select Hotels gift voucher. The perfect stress-free gift this Christmas. Select Hotels e-vouchers are available to buy online at selecthotels.ie for instant delivery by email worldwide direct to the recipient's inbox. To be in with a chance to win this prize, just answer the following question. What do you typically put on the top of your Christmas tree? Is it A, star, or B, snowman? To enter, call 1550 999 317 or text HOTEL to 57199.
The very best of luck. Now, we were asking earlier on about people to send in their Christmas traditions.
Yes.
We have, yes, I was saying I go for a Christmas Day swim. I was just remembered on Christmas Eve, we used to always go into Monaghan town and my dad would always make us go to confessions on Christmas Eve.
Because before Santa arrived, he had to be pure of soul. Is that what
I'm
it is?
sorry, me and my sister had a falling out.
And then is
I
that...
stole my brother's toy, yeah.
Can you remember when you used to go to confession, you'd have to make things up in confession because you didn't really, you were 7 years old, you didn't have anything. Mine was always, I kicked my brother in the shins. I never kicked my brother in the shins. So you were lying in
Made you
confession.
feel better.
Yeah. So your unique Christmas traditions. Ger, we always have a fried egg with fried Christmas pudding on Stephen's Day. The smell in the house is unreal. Like the actual
fried
pudding.
Christmas pudding. There you go. Paula said our Christmas tradition is to stay in her pyjamas all day. Why bother getting dressed up? We stuff our faces and watch movies all day, so we might as well be comfy. Damn right, Paula. Good on you.
That is the way to do it. Mandy, the Christmas tradition in my house is after Christmas Eve Mass, when the first box of sweets like roses are opened and everyone takes just 2, then off to bed to wait for Santa to come.
Oh, very
and
good.
The kids were small, we still do it
Did you
now.
say that you didn't open presents until after
Dinner.
your Christmas dinner? How mean is that?
Like obviously when Santa was there, you know, we had our Santa presents, but then we've always...
Family presents, everything else. You had to wait. What time would you have dinner at?
3 or 4. So we do...
Oh, my goodness.
We still do presents at like 5 or 6.
What is that? Fair play. That's,
yeah,
I
we
don't
just...
think my
I don't know
kids would
why
put up with that.
we've always done that.
Claire said, our unusual Christmas tradition is that my mum makes us open our presents by age. So the youngest goes first, then all the way up to the adults. So it eventually gets to the mum opening hers, being all, ooh, looking at that. And the oldest brother records it all. I can't believe you had to wait all day before you could open presents.
I didn't mind that. I thought it was fine because Santa was so good. And then it was like, all right, calm down.
To be
and
fair,
then we do it later on.
It does annoy me a bit where everything gets opened up and then you don't actually play with stuff.
No. So it was always a bit. And, you know, it's the one time in life I show self-control. So, you know, it's the only one time in life I can do
well
it.
done. Thank you for sending in your texts. If we can get through a few more later on, we will. And there's also loads about civil servants and parking space and everything.
And all parking spaces.
Yeah, we won't talk about that. Coming up, scientist Phil Smith is here. He's going to be teaching us how to make snow and show us how Santa makes his sleigh go. Wow, I look forward to that. I always love Phil. See you after the break. Well, from reindeer toothpaste to instant snow, Phil Smith is here with lots to show.
Yes, it's all about the science of Christmas. Phil, it is lovely to have you here. And can I just say, I think it must be Kelly who's knocking it out of the park with all of the rhyming today, our producer Kelly. It's been amazing. So we're going to start with, first of all, reindeer toothpaste. Very important that reindeers keep their teeth clean.
Well, I mean, all the treats that are left out, it's very important. Like, I mean, scientists, we do look at.
I do leave carrots out as well, good for the teeth. Anyway, let's get into it. Right.
That's great. So we're going to make, this is actually one that you can do. I've tried to do stuff that you can kind of do at home as well. This is part of the, so the reindeer's toothpaste is going to be a mixture of hydrogen peroxide, which what you use for dyeing hair. So that's already in these. So we've got 2 containers each it's just yeast and water. So if you just mix them together.
Okay, so
put the water into it.
The water into the yeast.
And then there's 2 spoons that I've commandeered from the reused from the canteen. And just mix it up. It's a little bit of warm. So what that's going to be is a catalyst.
Okay.
And a catalyst is something that's used in a reaction, or speeds up a reaction, but isn't used in the reaction itself.
Okay.
So it'll be there at the end. So we're learning about catalysts at the same time. So you're going to mix them. You can already get the smell of it. Tommy, stop playing with stuff. Wait till we're ready. See. What's the story?
Oh my God, you're the one person who can control it. This is amazing.
I'm excited.
This is so good.
Sorry, it's Christmas. We're excited.
Okay, what's next?
They're grand, so you can leave them to the side for the moment.
Okay.
Hydrogen peroxide is H2O2.
H2O2.
So H2O is water.
Yeah.
So what this has is an extra oxygen. If you leave hydrogen peroxide out, it will give away all of the oxygen. Okay. So what the catalyst is doing is it speeds this up. And what we use is the washing up liquid to trap it with inside bubbles.
Okay.
So if you add a little bit of washing up liquid to each of your things, so I would call it a scientific smidge.
Okay.
And that's a blob. Okay, cool. That's perfectly fine. And give it a little swirl around, just to mix it in.
Okay.
Very good. And then we're going to add a little bit of food colouring. So just a blob of green and red. That tiny bit. Yeah, that's cool.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there you go. Are you putting red in as well? You can put a bit of green as well if you want to. Or blue. Okay, Tommy's going blue. Blue. Oh, ooh. Christmas blue. Very good.
Christmas blue, yeah.
Okay, so mix it around a bit so everything's there.
Yeah.
And then we pop them into the trays. Oh, you're going that way. Okay. All right. Very good. And yours into that one over there. No, it's separate
sorry.
Didn't see over time.
Okay.
Okay, and now you're adding the yeast in.
Okay.
So just pour it all in. And what's happening is
here's the toothpaste.
Yeah. So what's happening? And take the funnel out as soon as you do it. And then take it out. So what's happening is you're getting all of this oxygen released out.
Look!
Look at this!
Yay!
So it's really foamy. It's good for the reindeers, but it's also exothermic. You can feel the heat off it a little bit if you got close.
Oh, it's an exothermic reaction.
But this will go. Kids will love this. Like, look at this. And it keeps going, and the smell, everything. It's so lovely, and it's really simple, but it'll plop away for 8 weeks.
I mean, and listen, like, not
Tommy's
just
one is an interesting
not just
shape.
the reindeers, like Mrs. Claus, and everyone can use that, and everyone
It
can.
is an interesting shape that Tommy's produced.
Let's not draw attention to that.
No, let's not.
I don't think we're just going to leave.
Will we move on, Tommy?
Managed to do this.
That is the perfect.
Anyway,
like it's perfectly
I
uniform.
nailed it. Thank you. Let's move on.
I've never seen that before.
You've never seen that sort of a reaction before?
No.
Okay, he's just got away with the ladies, does our Tommy. Okay. What are we moving on to now? Snow.
Snow, okay. Again, something a little weird, but different. Nappies. So nappies are designed to soak up stuff.
Yes.
Generally. And if you open up and cut out one of the nappies, you'll get this kind of powder inside. So you can see there's kind of a dusty powder inside.
Yeah.
Tommy, you'll see that when it's open there.
Okay.
So what's inside there is this stuff. And this stuff is called sodium polyacrylate. And what the polyacrylate is, like a parrot repeats, a polymer or anything else is one that a chemical that repeats. so it stretches out.
Oh
so
my
poly
God,
means repeating.
That's what a polymer does.
okay.
It just repeats.
It repeats. It's a molecule that repeats. But it's really good at stretching out and holding stuff inside it.
Okay.
So nappies stretch out, hold water inside them. And they work for kids, but funnily enough, when you add salt to sodium polyacrylate, it actually doesn't absorb any water, which is why adult nappies are a different kind of chemical. There'll be so much more salt in our systems when we do lots of things. So you can't wear children's nappies and have them work. But what you can do is you can use the same chemical to bring a bit of Christmas spirit. Which sounds
Christmas
a little,
spirit.
with nappies. So in here I
Didn't
have
expect that.
a derivative of sodium polyacrylate.
Okay.
And all I want you to do, Muireann, is add the water in.
All of it?
Pretty much, yeah.
So
Well,
could
add
I-
half it and see what happens.
Could I open up the nappy and pour water in it?
Yeah, kind of.
And
So
this
if you
might
stop
happen.
now, Muireann, and see what happens. So you'll see that this... It starts growing and growing and growing and growing, and you can even add a little bit more in as well. So what's this is it's soaking up all of the water, but this is what Insta Snow is essentially.
No way.
So yeah, so when you move it in and mush it around, get all the things in.
Is this safe? Like this
Oh, yeah.
chemical, it's totally safe. It's in nappies.
Yeah, it's this.
Wow.
It's a similar kind of pro-delivery, but this is exactly. So it's the science.
It feels so cool.
doesn't it?
It's like gel.
That is amazing. So hold on.
Can
sorry,
people
Cliff.
make this at home?
Can I take all this stuff out of a nappy and
Yes.
pour water in it?
I get
and
that.
this might happen.
It happens very simple. So what the good thing about what you could do, a great experiment, is you can get this stuff out of a nappy, put it into a cup, pour water into it, and then turn it upside down, and it expands so much that it can't drop.
That it can't come
so
out.
the kids are like, "Where's all the water gone?"
My
so it's
kids are
like
gonna
magic.
love this.
Isn't it good?
Look at that.
Jamie,
That is so cool.
They're trying to get Jamie to potty train all
Poor-
those nappies you have hanging around the house
He's
now.
not going to have any more nappies. He's going to have to potty train now. Dad, what are you doing?
But it's great. It's like little bit of nappy Christmas.
You could use that to like decorate.
Oh yeah, completely. Yeah.
Like that's totally what we.
That is just like now. There is a difference between precisely what's in a nappy and that. So there is a slight derivative.
You buy that.
You can buy, of course. It's Insta Snow.
Insta Snow.
Wow.
That feels so
I'll hook you
cool.
up.
Okay, go on.
I'll hook you up with my white powder. Dude.
It's all about Santa's stealth.
Santa stealth. Okay, so soaking up water, lots of stuff. This is a special kind of water. So if you just dip your hand into that.
Whole hand?
Well, just see how you get on. See what happens.
Ooh. Oh.
That's the reaction we were looking for. So inside there.
Put your fingers into that.
Oh, little balls.
Yeah.
Why is it done that?
So in here, what we have are orbs or Orbeez. They're kind of very like, you use them in garden centres or anything. Basically, they're just balls that absorb water. They're kind of bobbing around there.
Why are they bouncing?
They're bouncing because they're a little bit, because they've water inside them. They
I
soak
have
up all the
loads
water.
of these at home.
Do you?
Sorry, what are you talking about?
My daughter
Looks like
has
water.
them. She loves them, yeah.
So they're great to play around with. What they do is though, because they're filled with water, they have the same refractive. Whoa, there we go. Oh,
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. We've bobbles down.
Sorry.
There we go. We're good. The same refractive index as the water. So they bend light at the same rate. So if you hold one of them up, if you can grab it and look through it, you can actually see. Thanks, Tommy.
Thanks, Tommy.
They're bouncy
Are your
balls
students
as well.
as bad as him?
No, they listen.
Okay, right.
So,
Oh, right, okay.
So everything's inverted. So actually, as kids, when we look through, everything we see now is inverted, upside down.
Yeah.
But our brains flips it the right way around.
Yeah.
So when you look through this, everything's inverted. But what it does is it bends the light. So what I've tried to do is by putting it onto this, you can't see that they're there. But if you squeeze them or shake them, you kind of see it.
Yes.
That's right, which is nice. So I think that Santa potentially uses
Stop it,
the water particles that are in the air to bend light to be able to be stealthy so people can get around. So I have built something that I have never tested before.
Okay, is this going to show us how Santa's sleigh might possibly work?
Yes, kind of. I think so. This is going to be like God of the Distribute. So in this, we can't really see anything. Like there's obviously something inside it.
Yeah.
But if I add water to this and please,
Okay, we're hoping that this
please
will
works.
work.
Okay, so if this starts to work, so what should happen over time is if you look at the screen, you might see it better from the front.
Oh, look.
What you should start seeing is that basically the light is starting to bend at the
Wow.
same rate. And then Santa's sleigh miraculously appears
Oh, it's floating!
and then floats up as well. Because, I mean, what's Christmas without a bit of Santa's magic?
Phil
That's
Smith.
how Santa flies. Oh my
Yes.
God.
I got it worked.
This is so cool.
So good.
That has made me ridiculously happy.
So I popped in. Also, I got to build more Lego because I'm obsessed with Lego. I mean, what else reason do I need? But yes, so Orbeez, a little bit of magic.
Do you have these at home? You
Yeah,
just
we
buy
have those
these.
at
But this is the thing,
home as well,
all
yeah.
of this stuff can be done at home. And I mean, we're going to be at home at Christmas. It's a good time to, you know, do stuff. I think one of the things we learned over the last period is actually doing stuff together. We
With
get
your family.
With your
exactly.
family, you learn
and
so
it
much.
not being all about the presents. Actually doing stuff like this is kind of creating a great family experience.
The presence
as well.
of mind.
Oh, you little sweetheart. Where can people find you doing all your experiments?
Phil of Science on Instagram.
Phil of Science.
That's class.
This is really cool.
It's nice, isn't it?
I'm actually buzzing after
I
this.
love
It
that.
made me
I can't
so
believe
happy.
first time he's ever done it as well.
I know.
Nailed it. Thank you,
And it
Phil.
worked.
Now, still to come before 10, world-renowned cellist Patrick Dexter chats about his debut album.
Plus, we'll help you find the perfect last-minute Christmas dress.
Snow, let it snow. Snow.
We'll talk to you in a second.
I'll get there, Uber.
Hello, festive fashion is in full swing, but if you're stuck for something to wear to a last-minute soiree, do you know what? We've got you sorted, Tommy.
And it's not Christmas jumpers, Lorna Duffy, is it?
It's not, Tommy. We will get you a nice
damn it.
sequin outfit sorted. Don't you worry about
Okay,
that. We
very
can't
good.
be
So
doing with Christmas
You
jumping.
wore a full Christmas suit one year.
Yeah.
Do you still have it?
Oh my God,
I have
love
two,
this.
actually.
Is that coming tomorrow?
No.
Oh,
won't be there
come
tomorrow. Oh, we
on.
need a proper day for that one. all right.
Okay. We're going to kick off today. We're celebrity inspired.
Yes.
For some of these
all
looks.
about the celeb inspo. First up, we have Alexandra Daddario. She is just stunning in this gown. So here we're looking at two things. Firstly, we're looking at satin dresses, but also the champagnes and neutrals, and just the fact that it's a really elegant
You're not
dress.
going to wear that dress Christmas
No, you're
Day
not.
now, are
Well,
you?
like just some people might wear this, Tommy, on Christmas Day. You never know. But if it's
carries.
not a vibe for Christmas Day, what I will say is New Year's Eve, maybe you've got a winter wedding. I have a friend who has a
Okay,
wedding
yeah.
next Wednesday. It might be nice for a day two. Brides.
You
anything
can't be
like-
wearing that colour to a wedding if you're not the
for
bride.
a day two, though, if you're the bride,
Oh,
you've
right.
literally left it super last minute. This would be really nice. I love this, so it's absolutely beautiful. Very kind of Versace vibe. This is available in lots of different colours. We have blue, teal, green, pink, black. Lots of sizes, 6 to 16, and it's just a stunning dress from
lovely.
Oh Hello Clothing. Absolutely beautiful. We have some gorgeous jewellery this morning from a really nice new Irish online store, Charlotte and Kate Jewellery. They have the most beautiful selection of pieces, really dainty, subtle. We've done some really nice gold accessories. Love these wave earrings. They go very nicely with the layered bracelets that we have here as well. Again, fantastic price points, absolutely beautiful. And we've gone for a gorgeous little chain ring there as well. Beautiful pieces, a little bit of sparkle as well because it's Christmas. Why
Very
not?
nice.
And this
then
clutch.
lovely little clutch. Now the clutch matches the shoes, which we'll see in a moment, but I love it. Bit of sparkle.
Yeah.
It's gold. It matches in nicely with the champagne, with obviously the gold accessories, and then we have a beautiful pair of matching sparkly shoes because why not? Everything has to match, and they are absolutely fabulous from Murphy's Shoes. And the heel is high, but it's not too high, which is very important
Lovely
in my
outfit. I mean,
opinion.
you wouldn't want to be eating too much turkey with that outfit, though.
No, absolutely not. I'm not putting it on at the moment anyway, I'll tell you that much. Okay, who is our next celebrity
up, we have
inspiration?
the oh so stylish Millie McIntosh. So here again, we are looking at two things. Firstly, a long sleeve pleat dress, but secondly, we are looking at velvet dresses. So we're seeing them everywhere for winter. They are perfect for silly season, for all things festive. So on Ursula, we have quite a similar dress. This is absolutely stunning. This dress here is from my kind of dress. We've gone for a teal shade, but again, we've got the V-neck. It's so elegant. The sleeves and just that really nice pleated detailing. Absolutely stunning. It has lots of stretch in it. It's elasticated off the waistline there as well, and it is available in different colours. It is just absolutely beautiful. Very much sort of we're going for a
Good
Saint
name,
Laurent
isn't it?
vibe
My
here.
kind of dress.
My kind of dress. I love it. Definitely one for me. Really nice. We've gone for a beautiful pair of sort of statement earrings. We've gone for a bit of a pearl detailing here. Absolutely beautiful. And then we've gone for gorgeous little bracelets as well, both priced at €30, and then this beautiful freshwater pearl or mother of pearl ring, should I say, and then another little ring as well, both priced at €30. Beautiful. And then a gorgeous little clutch.
And the clutch matches the shoes as well.
Yes, we just have to go for all of them. I just love my matching pieces. We have to go matching, absolutely. And there's a little chain in there as well. If you didn't want to wear it as a clutch, you could throw it over and wear it as a nice little crossbody bag if you wanted to. And then a lovely little bear. It's sort of like, it's not that really bright yellow gold like we had on Kerry's. So, yeah, really nice. Always matte gold in our shoes, but beautiful.
Gorgeous. Thank you, Ursula. Cheers.
Very much. Now,
Stunning.
Amanda Holden up next.
Yes, Amanda Holden. So yeah, she gets it right from time to time when it comes to the old.
She gets it right.
Doesn't she?
That's her leaving the radio studio.
It's true. It is. I know the road. This is exactly.
I love that. She gets it right time to time and sometimes not.
You know what? If you want to dress up, I like
every
it
day
though.
she leaves. I used to do radio for years. You've been in your tracksuit bottoms or your pajamas. I'm like, girl, fair play to you.
She gets the brownie points. Okay, she gets
there
the
every
brownie
morning.
points.
To be fair. Okay, Kelly.
Beautiful.
Hello, my love.
So yeah, so basically there we're looking at firstly the pop of colour and secondly the sequins. I mean, look at this. It just screams Christmas. It screams New Year's Eve. It screams silly season. I just love everything about it. I don't even need to say anything about it. It speaks for itself. Absolutely stunning. Beautiful, beautiful jumpsuit. This one here is available in another different colour. It comes in one size, but it is very, very stretchy. It's elasticated. And I just love that V neckline. And again, just the fact that it's sequined. It is just absolutely stunning. We're kind of going for a Ralph Lauren vibe here. It's
Is it
just
comfortable?
beautiful.
Does it have like
Now, what I
inside
will
lining?
say is it is comfortable, but what I also like with this is it's long sleeved. I wore a sequin dress over the weekend and it cut the arms off me, scraped to pieces. So because it's long sleeve, you're not going to get that itchy, annoying sort of feeling that you can typically get with a sequin dress or jumpsuit. Here then we have some beautiful little earrings. They've gone for a nice simple hoop earring, obviously because there's quite a lot going on with our jumpsuit. Then we've gone for quite a subtle, dainty necklace, beautiful little starburst necklace, and then we've gone for sort of a layered look with our rings, a little bit of sparkle, the double band ring priced at 28, and then a sunburst ring to match our beautiful necklace priced at 33, and then love the little clutch. Again, it's a little bit bigger than our other two because you fit all the essentials in there. We're wearing this as a clutch. Obviously, there's a nice big strap in there if you want to go for a crossbody bag. Again, if you're dancing the night away for New Year's Eve or whatever it might be. And then we've gone for a nice practical, but of course stylish pair of suede black strap sandals. So yeah, very nice.
The lilac nails on Kelly as well. Sometimes I'd be looking at you models going, where do they get the time?
She just turned it like she knew.
Where do you get
planned.
the time?
I know,
Unbelievable.
I know. Absolutely crazy.
Now, our celebrity inspiration here, Naomi.
Naomi Campbell. So this is beautiful. Now, firstly, this is a little bit more extravagant than what we have on Kerry this morning. But we are looking at, firstly, like a nice kind of black dress at LBD, but also we're looking at the feather detailing. So that's the main thing here. We're seeing feathers everywhere at the minute. This one here is we're taking inspo from Valentino. So this is just stunning. Oh, hello, clothing.
Does it tickle your armpits? Does
it tickle? I was going to say, I can't comment on this myself. But what I will say is...
You wouldn't have to shave under the arms for a few days.
I mean, look,
great.
Minimal effort, guys. That's what we're going with this beautiful look on Kerry this morning. But seriously, it's strapless. It's so elegant. You know, we've obviously had our dresses that aren't so fit. If you wanted to go for something that's a little bit more fitted, that's elegant, it's just absolutely beautiful. A nice, simple LBD, and just the overall fit and look is just stunning. And of course, that feather detailing. We're not going crazy. I've seen those like complete feather dresses are a little bit crazy, so we're not. We're keeping it subtle and very, very elegant and chic with the feather detailing this morning. And then we have these beautiful little star earrings, again, super, super dainty because you don't want to take away from the feather detailing.
The necklace is quite minimal as well, isn't it?
Yes, very, 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 very minimal. Beautiful round cubic zirconia necklace, very subtle. And then we've gone for layered rings, lovely little gold knot ring priced at 28, and then a lovely oval cut eternity ring priced at 33. So we've gone for the layers with our rings, beautiful, and then a lovely little clutch then as well. A little bit of gold to match in.
A little bit of gold, and then with the shoes.
Beautiful, and then there's the shoes. They're absolutely stunning.
They're lovely.
I mean, look at them. Absolutely stunning. They're available in a few different colours. Lots of sizes available in those from 3 to an 8, and yeah, they're just again perfect for all things Christmassy, festive, and I just love them.
Gorgeous.
They're beautiful.
Look at
Absolutely
that.
beautiful.
I'm not wearing it
Yeah.
on Christmas Day. You can't put the hand down the pants.
Oh,
Do you know what I mean?
I feel
Sort
like
yourself out.
But very nice,
that's
Lauren
it.
Duffy. Thank you so much.
Thank
A very
you
Merry
so
Christmas.
much.
I
Me
love your
too.
dress as well.
Thank
Very
you so much.
glitzy.
Merry Christmas.
Up next, Patrick Dexter is the musician who went viral over lockdown playing his cello from his cottage in the west of Ireland. He and his cello are going to join us for a little performance after the break. Now, from millions of online views to appearing on TV shows across the world, Patrick Dexter shot to fame during the pandemic when videos of him playing his cello outside his home in the west of Ireland went viral.
And before we chat to the lovely Patrick, here's a look at him doing what he does best. Beautiful. That is so, you're really getting into this, cello. Patrick Dexter, good morning. Happy Christmas.
Thank you. Wonderful to be with you.
It's so lovely to have you here because I think the world and its mother knows who you are now, from calming us all down in the pandemic, being outside your home, to like, it's a whole new career for you. You got your own album, live show, tour. It's fantastic.
Your life has changed a lot. You know, since I was last year with you guys, it was all remote online. The world was completely different. It was all in COVID lockdown. And I was just playing alone in my home, playing cello. But things have completely changed in this last year. Yeah, I brought out my first album and I've been playing abroad, and just, yeah, life has taken on a whole new course.
Like, because I was remember chatting to you on Skype or Zoom back then, and we saw the video. It was just during the pandemic, it is just everything that people needed at the time with the dog. And is it your parents' house? Like, what is it with the house over there that you just decided to move over there and just enjoyed almost the serenity of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautifully serene place, County Mayo, where I'm based. I'm from Dublin and grew up here. And there's a beautiful spot on the west coast, and it's where I have my cottage. And it's where I was in lockdown. And the scenery is splendid. It's absolutely beautiful. And it brings out for me an urge to want to play my instrument, play the cello, which I'm delighted to be playing for you later today. It's just the peace, the serenity, the feeling of wildness as well that you get on the west coast of Ireland, that I feel brings out some of the most soulful parts of the cello. And that's what I love to do myself. And then I started sharing it online, and yeah, everything.
Luckily you shared it online, because I think you got broadband about 5 minutes beforehand, did you? Was that it?
Well, the internet was a trickle, I tell you. I remember one time, the internet was coming so slow, it was just 4G on your phone. So I remember we had this rock out in the garden, and sometimes I'd want to upload a video and it just wouldn't be trickling in, it wouldn't quite be there. And I'd go out into the rock and I'd stand up with the phone like this in the air saying, please upload. And then it would sort of go on to be seen by millions of people online, but it started like that. Now, thankfully, the broadband has improved a lot. Yeah.
You just look like He-Man on top of a rock. I've got the power. Hit me out, national broadband plan.
That's like at home in Monaghan. You have to just keep the phone on the window all the time and hope you get a bar in it.
Oh, yes, that's exactly.
But landscape plays a huge part of your performances and everything. And your new album, Solace, isn't it? Did you have to try and find the perfect setting for that?
You're right. So landscape is a huge part of what inspires me in music, and specifically where I am in the west of Ireland. It's an inspirational place for music. I wanted to put this in the album, It's not a visual medium when you're listening to music. So how I did that was to capture the recording. I played it live like I do for my videos by the cottage, and it was at springtime. So all the sounds of nature that surrounded the birds, the stream, all the sounds of the breeze, everything, we captured with mics that we set up outside the cottage, all happening at the same time as I was playing. So the experience of the album is quite different to what you might expect for, say, a classical instrument album is you would have. It's not in a studio, it's all this live atmospheric sounds of nature that accompany the music.
It's so beautiful. The album Solace is stunning, and you're playing around the place. You're in a tiny church in Dunleary. Like, people can find you, come along to your shows and just chill. A bit of bliss.
I have my first ever Dublin show, so this is special, you know. So I'll be playing for people, millions of people online, but to be playing in real life is wonderful. So Taney Church in Dundrum in Dublin is where I'll be playing on January 6th. And
the whole family coming?
The whole family will be there, yeah. If
Little daughter?
My daughter, she'll be in bed, unfortunately. Yeah, she's 2 years old, so...
You looked happy there. You were like,
exactly.
she'll be in bed, it'll be fine.
Oh, no, I think she'd love it. She loves churches for whatever reason. She loves all the stained glass. She loves the atmosphere in them. You know, I do too. She would love to be there, but no, it's a little past her bedtime.
Patrick Dexter, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Looking forward to the performance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Well, listen, while you get ready to perform, let's run through what's coming up on tomorrow's show. Brian Lloyd rates the best and worst, cheesiest Christmas films that we love to hate.
Plus, Derek is going to be live from Dublin Airport, so if you or your loved one would like to have a chat with the best guy on the telly, send us a WhatsApp. It's 0896 111 111.
Now, it's over to Patrick Dexter with the latest single, Old Lang Syne.
Go like this now.